The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I not only say the things I need to say, but the things I think you need to hear. And your feelings, they're not a factor. Everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. So we're going to start out as we do by saying to Josh, Iceman, Jason, Miss Aaron, Mike, Tabby, Javier, Fitz, McShane, El Hefe, El Devlin, El Morte, the guys at the Weather Report, to Billy G, and to Walt from the B-Raw podcast. Thank you guys for your continued support. You are fantastic. You are wonderful. You are special. You are smarter than the average bear. You are better looking than the average model, and all of you are fantastic. So now that I've got the ass kissery out of the way, let's get started in talking about what we're going to talk about this episode. And I'm going to try and do something, and I'm doing this purely for... hopefully you guys will appreciate it a little bit too, but honestly I'm doing it for me. I need to step away from talking about the American political landscape just briefly, just to get away from it. And I'm still going to talk about something that's somewhat political, but I mean, I'm trying to get away from the whole camel toe and the Cheeto-dusted bastard and all the horse shit that they're both perpetrating as we're coming up on their first and probably only debate. A lot of people are laying money that camel toe is going to back out. I really don't think she can justify that she hasn't been given any outs. She's still complaining that Donald Trump's team is making her stick to the original rules, which I'm sure is fucking up the one ace in the hole she was practicing of throwing down her little "I'm speaking" line, like she's going to have a brat moment because Donald Trump will say something when it's her turn to talk, and I'm sure she was working on that so hard to get that queued up so she could throw that out. And it's probably disappointing to her that the mics are going to be off when they're not talking, so she's not going to be able to use her one little, what she figured was probably an ace in the hole card, because she can't debate. Trump's been prepping with Tulsi Gabbard, who absolutely ended her last political run at presidency, and it's not like she's got a lot of skill in the debate stage. She's done zero press other than that bullshit interview with Walsh at her side. She's done no independent interviews, no news, no morning talk shows, no evening talk shows, no radio talk shows, no podcasts, no appearances in any way, shape, or form. And she is not... that's the kind of stuff that gets you ready to talk, think on your feet, act without notes, be able to do this without a prompter or a fucking earpiece, which are the tools they basically use to keep, Sleepy functional for as long as they could. But even he could speak off of preloaded information, I'm sure, because there's no doubt in my mind that ABC fed Camel Toe the fucking questions 2 weeks in advance, despite the promises that they're not going to do that. Nobody trusts the media. Nobody believes the media. Nobody thinks that's going on. Nobody thinks it's going to be an above-board, legit debate. And honestly, she's still going to be fucking terrible. She is horrible. She has no accomplishments to stand on. Literally, her entire campaign is based around not being Trump. That's all she's got is "I ain't him." The entire left march, this entire run has been based on hatred and intolerance and campaigning on "I'm not Trump. We're not Trump. We're not going back. We're not going to this." Meanwhile, in flat-out, flagrant, blatant denial of the current status of this country, the jobs reports have been revised down. Domestic employment is tanking. Domestic-born workers lost 1.4 million jobs so far in the most recent job report, while foreign-born jobs is up like 560K or something like that. So the jobs that are being created aren't going to domestically born American citizens. 5 million U.S. citizens have given up looking for work. Everything they're saying, all the jobs numbers reports have been revised. The numbers are coming out. They've been cooking the numbers like we've been saying this entire time. Literally anybody with their head not wedged firmly in their ass has been able to tell you this is horseshit. Nobody believes the economy is doing better. Nobody gives a shit what the S&P is closing at when it costs $9 for a fucking dozen eggs. Nobody gives a shit when... they say, oh, well, the market's trading robustly when we're paying $6 a gallon for fucking gas to go to work so the government can take 40% of our paycheck and still operate at about, a $100 billion deficit every, I think it's 30 days, 40 days. I mean, we're on track to be $35 trillion, $36 trillion. I think we hit 35. Anyway, point being, the government's spending money like it's going out of style. which they've always done. They've been irresponsible stewards of our money, and they just take more. And Camel Toe is running on a platform of failed Marxist economics, like taxing unrealized gains, because the stupid morons who support this dumb cunt are like, oh, well, that's only going to affect rich people, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, you dumb motherfucker. Let's say they assess your home at $235,000, and you only paid $140,000 for it. Therefore, you have unrealized gains of $90,000. They're going to expect you to pay taxes on those unrealized gains of $90,000, and you're going to have to do something to pay it, which may be up to and including refinancing or selling your fucking home, you dumb bastards. And like every other tax, they're saying, oh, well, it's only going to affect the rich. It's only going to affect the top 1%. That's also how the income tax was proposed, which was supposed to be a temporary tax, and we're still paying it. It was supposed to be to pay for World War II, and we're still shelling out money for this shit. So, or I'm sorry, World War I. Don't come to me with this bullshit about how, taxes are only going to affect so-and-so. They are literally exist to destroy all of us. And if you really think the millionaires are just going to take less money out of the kindness of their hearts and they're not going to pass the costs on to the rest of us, you're fucking retarded, and you shouldn't be listening to me because you're retarded. You should be somewhere licking a window, coloring with crayons, picking on your nose, eating your boogers, hopefully wearing a fucking helmet, and probably not having any utensils that could cut anything sharper than a fucking tortilla because you're a brain-dead fucking retard. So, man, I just spent a good solid 5 minutes ranting about politicians that I said I wasn't going to talk about in this episode. And, but since I already started going down this road, fuck it. So, and also Camel Toe's talking about, I'm going to sign an executive order. We're going to take your guns, which kind of ties into what I want to talk about more so. But, this is more of a societal thing that I'm thinking about than a political thing, although the political thing is what prompted me thinking about the societal impacts of it. And particularly Camel Toe saying she's going to sign an executive order saying they're going to do a mandatory buyback and they're going to come take our guns. And it's really not going to end well. And it's any and every liberal fucktard out there who wants to get on board with we come in to take your guns is only saying that because they won't be the ones doing it. They're not going to be jeopardizing their lives. They're not going to be putting their lives on the line to enforce their fucking beliefs on people who don't want to go along with it. They're going to be sending someone else to do it. And ironically enough, it's not the guns they have a problem with. It's you having the guns that they have a problem with. They don't want you to have your freedom, your liberty, or your rights. They want the government to be the only perpetrators of potential violence, which in their minds is the government's the good guys because they're fucking retarded. Again, I keep coming back to this point. And there's been I've noticed on my social media over the last few days, there's been a recent surge of people trying to say you shouldn't be throwing around the word retarded. And no, in this house we say retarded, we say fag, we say cunt, because I'm old and I'm cranky and I'm not allowed to have other people tell me what I should think and what I should say. And the thing about it is, I would never call somebody with legitimate mental deficiencies a retard. I will call somebody who's willfully ignorant and stupid a fucking retard because they're fucking retards. I'm not going to call someone who's attracted to the same sex a fag. Fag is what you call your buddies when they do something fucking stupid. Because I'm Gen X, that's how it works. That's how we see things. I don't care what your sexual orientation is as long as it's only towards other consenting adults. I don't give a flying nickel-plated fuck. It's irrelevant to me. It doesn't affect the quality or content of your character in the slightest fucking way in my book. I don't fucking care. If you're a chick and you're into other chicks, good for you. If you're a guy and you're into other guys, good for you. If you're not into anything, good for you. If you're into fucking everything, I don't fucking care. It's completely irrelevant to me because you're not fucking me. So I don't care. You may want to, but you don't get to. That right is exclusively belonging to the missus. So sorry, that's just the. And even if I was single, it would still, I'm strictly into chicks. It's nothing personal. It's not a comment. I don't think I'm better or worse than anybody else. It's just the nature of my attraction. And again, this also may seem like this. I swear this is all going to tie together before it's finished here. But this is just the rambling, ranting squirrel cage that lives inside my head that I'm trying to deal with and trying to organize and trying to put into a coherent message for you guys to listen to. So anyway, at that point, what I'm thinking about these days, and again, it's you hear a lot of things about and some of this may not necessarily be the case, but I have the feeling that a lot of you guys have, similar algorithms to the one that I see. Not necessarily exactly the same, because I'll be honest, there's a lot of fucked up stuff in my algorithm, because I have a really sick and twisted sense of humor in a lot of ways, and I find shit funny that some people would probably go, ooh, that's fucked up. But on the other hand, it is what it is. I am who I am. Love me or hate me. What you see is what you get. No apologies, no excuses. It's the truth. But anyway, before I get too completely derailed, the whole point that I'm thinking about and how this ties into the gun confiscation and the people getting offended by words and all the other horse shit that's been going on in the world nowadays, including all the political grandstanding and all the fucking easily manipulated, smooth-brained fucks out there, is people have just gotten to be so utterly fucking self-involved. I mean, that's not like it's a new thing. People have been self-obsessed and narcissistic for as long as people have been around. That's how we got the term narcissistic, is based on the tale of Narcissus, which was told as a warning about just being too into your fucking self. And I know we've all got our own shit going on. I know we've all got our own problems. We've all got our own concerns, our own issues, our own day-to-day bullshit that just takes us out of thinking about how our actions, deeds, or thoughts, or words, or anything else impacts anybody else around us. Because at the end of the day, people are pretty much ultimately selfish. I mean, yeah, every now and then you get somebody who's truly altruistic, truly gives a shit about other people. But by and wide, most people are pretty fucking, number one comes first. And realistically, you have to be. I'm not sitting here trying to say everybody needs to be always thinking about everybody else first, because that kind of weak-brained shit is how we've got into the situation we're in, where people began to try and, even though they didn't actually live by those terms, tried to preach that shit. People would try and say, well, I'm doing this for the good of the population. I'm doing this because we have to make sure everybody's on the same level. We have to elevate everybody to the same standards and da-da-da-da-da-da. And while it's a lovely concept, it's completely impractical. There is no such thing as an altruistic person, which is why things like communism and socialism fail. Because the lazy, worthless motherfuckers who won't work under capitalism to better their own lives really aren't going to work under a system where they don't have to work, because they'll get the same bullshit whether or not they contribute, which means the people who actually do work and contribute will actually get less for their work. No rewards. I've talked about that ad nauseum. Point being, a lot of the problems in this world, a lot of the division, a lot of the bullshit, not only can be traced back to this selfish approach towards life, but to the fact that it's not accurately applied and everybody's in fucking denial about it. Nobody wants to admit that they're out for self. The people who are realistically the most successful in the world are the ones that are like embracing the fact that they have to be selfish to get shit done. They have to put their own interests and their own needs first, because otherwise they're not in a position to address anybody else's shit. And I've said it before on the show. You have to take care of your own house before you can try and save the fucking world. I've said that in terms of globally, in terms of the country, in terms of individuals. You can't bankrupt your own house trying to feed the fucking homeless guy down the street because you feel bad for the crackheads, and somehow it gives you some sort of sense of vindication that you really are a better person because you're starving while you're giving money to a fucking heroin addict or something. I mean, obviously that's an extreme example, but it illustrates the principle I'm trying to elaborate on here by saying it's a case of, realistically, people you need to prioritize yourself first. You really do. But it's the how you go about it that matters. And to realistically do it effectively and to do it in such a way that actually will have any kind of real impact and any valuation and be any kind of thing resembling a just or righteous act, you have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself. That's the part I'm coming back to over and over again in this thought loop that my squirrel in my head is running. A lot of these people out here, they want their best life. They want the things they believe are right. They want the rest of the world to be beholden to that, but they don't want to do it themselves. They don't want to go out there and actually fight for their beliefs. They expect other people to do it for them because for whatever reason, they think that they're entitled to make the world live according to their values, but they're not actually willing to go out there and do anything about it. And that's the kind of shit that gets people fucking killed. You have people that don't necessarily believe in your values going out to fight on your behalf because you're a spineless coward who wants to hide behind words and say, well, I know I have the moral high ground, but I don't actually believe in that enough to actually go out and fight for it myself. I'll get all pigeon-chested online. I'll vote for the candidate who tells me what I want to hear because I think they're going to force you to do what I want. And the problem with that comes in when you're trying to force your beliefs on other people who actually will fight for their beliefs and who actually will stand up for what they want and who have accepted that fact that they have to do things for themselves. And that's it helps build more independence when you're able and willing to do things for yourself without requiring that dependence where you are going to have someone else trying to force your beliefs for you. I mean, and it goes back to the disarmament thing, and all these motherfuckers are out there saying, "Well, I'm gonna have my beliefs legislated into law, and you're gonna have to do it." On the other side of the coin, you got the people that are like, "Oh, the assholes that are migrating out of all the primarily Muslim countries into Christian countries, saying, well, we want Shariah law here." Well, you left a place that had Shariah law. Why don't you go fuck off back to that place and go around people who have the same ideals as you? Oh, because it wasn't working for you there. You want resources to exist somewhere else, but you want them on your terms. And it's just, being completely selfish but to excess. I mean, like I said, this is my brain doing the squirrel thing. It's running around in circles. You have to be selfish in a certain degree to be functional, to be successful, to just be able to get through life. But on the other side of that coin, if you're excessively selfish, you're really fucking shit up. And it's, how do you find that balance where you're going to walk the line between being an utterly selfish piece of shit and being just aware enough of your own self-interest that you can be a functional contributing member of society and you can take care of yourself to where no one else has to do it for you? I guess that's really what I'm coming back to is independence, being able to be out on your own, doing your own thing, functional on your own terms. Where, yeah, it's always easier when you have the help of a society or a group or an organization, but you're capable enough to function on your own. And somewhere along the lines, we lost that. I mean, people don't even value being able to be functionally independent in a lot of the country at this point. A lot of the urban areas, the city people, all these smooth-brained fucking 20-something-year-olds that are coming out of college so fully indoctrinated, completely programmed by the useful idiots that have been placed by the communist parties over the years, to somehow think just because they want something they should have it. Just they a lot of people out here throwing around, I deserve this and I deserve that, but they're not willing to do anything for it. And so they have self-interest, they have that selfish nature, but they don't have the drive to satisfy it. They want it satisfied for them. And to their mindset, it doesn't matter whose lives they ruin or who they throw away to get what they think they want. And that's up to and including the people that are out there saying, we're going to take your guns, when they don't mean we. They mean we want to send the military or the police or whoever to disarm you because I am afraid of people who are willing to stand up. I mean, and maybe this is me reading too much into it, but I've never once heard a pro-disarmament person who had an argument based on anything other than their emotions and their own insecurities. It's never been statistically proven, here's the stats that prove what I'm thinking. And it's never once ever addressed the just horrific shit committed by governments on unarmed populations, which is, that is factually inarguable. You cannot go out and say a disarmed population is ever once been in a better position for the government being the only ones that had access to weaponry. And they will completely disregard that because it's their herd animal mentality. There's a reason why they're referred to as sheep, because that's what they are. And they don't realize the shepherd is not the friend of the sheep, because the shepherd's the one selling them for meat. The shepherd's the one eating them to feed their families. They're not your friend. They're the ones that are taking advantage of you. And it's just, I don't know. It's frustrating to me that something that should be so patently obvious to anybody with more than half a brain is deliberately and willfully overlooked by these people who want a nanny state, who want to be taken care of, who don't want any responsibility for anything in their lives, but they still want to have everything they want, and they somehow think they deserve it without having to do the work, without having to put in the effort, without having to take the risk, without having to make any sacrifices. They want other people to do those things for them because it's, okay, I guess it's, like I said, not, there's a difference between being self-aware, self-oriented, self-prioritizing, and being delusional because you're a self-important little prick, which apparently I've talked myself to this conclusion. So I guess that's what it is. We need to learn how to be self-aware and self-reliant without being, like I said, a self-deluding little prick that thinks you're self-important. And the problem is 99% of the people who have this attitude have no perspective on life. They don't realize that every other motherfucker out there thinks they are the most important person in the world. Everyone has main character syndrome. Everybody's only worried about their own shit. And without that little seasoning of perspective on that, you become just an insufferable fucking cunt. And it's unbearable. And all these bureaucrats and parasites in DC and other government strongholds, they capitalize on that and they use it and leverage it, and it's done at this point so ham-handedly and blatantly that it's astounding to me that people are still falling for this shit on a regular basis. But like I said, it's people are blinded by self-interest. People are blinded by self-entitlement, and it allows them to be manipulated and more or less fucking useless. And unfortunately, I don't really have anything brilliant or witty to top onto that. Like I said, this was more just an episode of me talking through some things that are running around through my head to try and put them into some sort of working order to make it make sense. And who knows, maybe spark a little discussion, a little debate. Some comments, reach out to me on socials, DMs, whatever. Tell me what you think. I would love to get some feedback from you guys. And seeing as I'm pretty much, I don't know, the squirrels are tired and they're not running anymore all of a sudden, so I guess I'm going to put a pin in it for now and say that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Go to ihadtosayitpodcast.com, sign up for the mailing list, interact with the show. Click the links, sign up for the Patreon, join the Discord. Come and interact, be a part of the show. Buy the merch, support your favorite creator, or support me. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Till next time.